It was a good day for swordsmen to fight, with dark clouds and snow. A man in a lake wants to settle a score with Yanchisen. Even though Yanchisen is the most famous killer in the world, even though Yanchisen is a killer, who likes to kill in the back, but Yanchisen killed his brother? He deliberately turned his back on others, which is the pride of a swordsman. Yanchisen has just had a drink and is not interested in what these people are up to. If you're going to fight, let's fight. It's just a couple of quick twists and turns. It can already be seen that the swordsman is no match for Yanchisen. A few more rounds, and the swordsman doesn't know. Yanchisen was the one who killed him, whether he deserves to die or not, whether he wants to die. If you had the guts to take revenge on Yanchisen, you should have thought of what would happen.
燕大侠，我家小姐正在恭候。
备酒了吗？
都是好酒。
His name is Ju Yeking, a famous licking dog in all rivers and lakes. I followed Murongkuti for years, but I was never taken seriously. Murongkuti had prepared 100,000 taels of silver, trying to get the old swordsman to kill for him, but now the swordsman is dead. Yanchisen took on the task. If you can make money and practice your sword, why not? The man Murongkuti wants to kill is her childhood sweetheart. The two grew up together, but on the day of the wedding, the strange man suddenly left. Later, Murongkuti turned away countless children of famous families. I've been waiting for my childhood sweetheart. Finally, it is too painful to wait for the heart, then choose to marry. Just on the day of marriage, childhood sweetheart appeared again, took Murongkuti, but when Murongkuti was full of hope, he abandoned him. The man is none other than Xia Ziyafeng, the third master of Excalibur Heights. As a woman, Murongkuti can live with being abandoned, but as the daughter of the Murong family, she had to maintain the family's dignity. Yanchisen took the order, but he didn't want 100,000 snowflakes of silver. It's the body of Murongkuti.
我想你应该不知道是谁。
武林四大世家，江南七星堂少主慕容秋笛。
Murongkuti would not tolerate such a frivolous remark, but her kung fu is not as good as Yanchisen's. If a swordsman is not indomitable domineering, will always be defeated by the sword of the opponent. After dozens of rounds, Yanchisen gained the upper hand, with one swipe of his sword. Murongkuti's white robe, and no one will ever know what happened that night.
叶十三，我水性不好，所以我就不陪你了。你自己可要多保重啊！
Yanchisen got into the boat with one sword. A short time later, we reached the boundary of Excalibur Hill. It was the old owner of Excalibur Hill, Excalibur Village home. In the river's lake seems to be infinite scenery, but behind the scenes but also tasted endless pain. The eldest son of the old farmer died young, and left no descendants. The eldest daughter married a knight, but because of his arrogant temper, both were plotted by his enemies. Two son character is weak, since childhood like a maidservant, but because always dare not speak, and finally sad. So there was only Xia Ziyafeng left, whether he wants to or not. Excalibur Village all the chi, all gather on him, since the first generation of Xia ancestors invented their own sword method for more than 300 years. The Xia family has been all over the world, but none of them could command Excalibur, except Xia Ziyafeng. He was only 7 years old at that time. He could use a sword with both hands, cross the long stairs and enter the lobby of Excalibur Villa. Yanchisen saw Xia Ziyafeng's ranking instead. Xia Ziyafeng has been dead for 37 days. According to the old farmer, Yanchisen, who had been searching for this result for a long time, went wild with his sword.
毁三少木柱，等同毁他尸骨。谢氏一族岂可受此耻辱？
Everyone in Excalibur Villa knows how to use a sword. Everyone has a sword, but no one does it like Yanchisen. The old farmer quickly stopped the situation, hoping he would calm down. As a top swordsman, losing an opponent is like losing a bosom friend. It's a feeling only a master can understand. Now that Xia Ziyafeng is dead, the breath in Yanchisen's heart is gone. Throwing away the sword he had just captured, he left Excalibur Heights without a word. The news of Xia Ziyafeng's death left Murongkuti distraught. She once said that if the third young master died, all dowry servant girls must be served in the afterlife. Just as she was about to kill her, Ju Yeking stopped her. After all, Xia Ziyafeng's death was not confirmed. Maybe there's something fishy about this. Murongkuti also thought that Ju Yeking liked this servant girl, so he wanted to give Ju Yeking the servant girl. Ju Yeking licked the dog for half his life. My heart is full of Murongkuti. To prove innocence, he killed an innocent servant girl with a sword. No matter what, he's willing to wait forever, until the day Murongkuti changed his mind. But Murongkuti always believed that Ju Yeking was not worthy of him. He's not gonna give this kid a chance. The news of Xia Ziyafeng's death caused shock across the nation. Tianzin, a Jianghu organization, sent messengers to find out the truth.
若此迅速时，即时攻打神剑山庄，攻城之日，各大门派必俯首称臣。
Xia Ziyafeng actually didn't die at all. In a place called Koi Town, there was a drunken beggar on the street. He stinks, but when he pulls out a big silver ticket, it was an instant hit with prostitutes. But no amount of money is enough in this hole of gold depletion. Within a few days he had spent all his money, and even owed him for 5 days of drinking. How can a Procurus and a turtle see Xia Ziyafeng? They gave him a nickname, a G, and asked him to work to pay off the debt. From then on, there was no Excalibur Villa Xie Fing. Added a brothel handyman named AG. No one here knows where he came from. No one knows what his background is. The prostitutes also bullied him and made him empty his basin every day. What kind of humanity is there in this land of fireworks? Whores and clients are all about money. When Xiaoli saw his bald purse on the floor, he was struck by the thought.
大爷，你歇会儿啊，你擦擦手。
Xiaoli crouched down as no one noticed. He took all the pearls into his bosom. The scene caught the eye of Xie Fing. To silence the handyman, Xiaoli flicked a gold pearl at him, but Xie Fing won't take it. He doesn't care about the stuff. In the evening, Xiaoli paddled to pick up Xiaoli from the field. Xiaoli, pausing for words, suggested Xie Fing to become a swordsman. When he did not respond, he seduced him with seduction.
你想不想试一下我的身体？我让你睡一次，你带我离开小游了好不好？
跟讲条件的女人干嘛？
Yanchisen, meanwhile, struggles to find Xie Fing. A temple has been found. There's a Zen master who can see patients. Legend has it that the Zen master traveled to famous mountains and read the world of medicine to save the suffering of the people. Later, a spring was found here that could cure all diseases, waiting here all year round. I do not know how many people rescued with spring water. The Zen master simply felt the pulse to see the problem. Yanchisen's illness is very serious, because he has been too bitter, overworked and injured since childhood. He has already hurt qi and blood. Now the whole body meridian disordered. Basically is incurable.
金疮药不能延寿，拿去防身吧。
The Zen master told Yanchisen if he could let go of some thoughts and grudges, maybe there's still a chance. When a man is dying, everything is open. Yanchisen stopped a carriage on the side of the road. 100 taels of silver for the coachman's cart and wine. The driver agreed at once. Where will you go when you have money? The driver immediately replied that he would go to the town of Kauai, where there were women to eat and drink, even if he dies. If he can be buried in the Baoa forest south of Kauai town, that would be a life well spent. So Yanchisen led the horse in the wine, and found the forest of flowers. I wanted to buy the tomb keeper's residence for 100 taels of silver, but the grave keeper was dying too, and money was no use to a dying man. The keeper asked for nothing but Yanchisen to dig the grave and bury it. I can give away everything here. In this way, Yanchisen buried the grave keeper, and become the new keeper of the grave. There's nothing dead about the birds and the flowers, but compared with Baoa Forest, Kauai town is more lively. The brothel is full of people coming and going. There are always a few uninterested people who want to cheat.
等一下，大爷，您还没付钱呢。
你的功夫大爷不买，没钱。
Madam hurried out to smooth things over, claiming that if you do not give money will be a blessing. But the two men still wouldn't pay and even hit the man. Xie Fing doesn't like bullying, or watching people get bullied. Stepped forward to stop these two, even though he was stabbed several times. He still said nothing. See Xie Fing to be ruthless. These two people can only be soft. Take out the silver and give it to Xiaoli and leave in a dejected mood.
你疼不疼啊？你会死吗？
With Xiaoli's good care, Xie Fing recovered from his injury quickly. Xiaoli has no capital and wants to repay Xie Fing with his body, but Xie Fing wasn't for it. He knew the importance of 2 ounces of silver to Xiaoli, and had no wishful thinking. The madam burst in before Xiaoli could do anything more. Claims the big boss behind the brothel has his eye on Xie Fing, ready to accept Xie Fing as a disciple. This is a big deal in the eyes of the madam. With a big boss behind you, the sky's the limit. But Xie Fing decided to leave the town of Kauai. After learning the news, he didn't want anyone to know who he was. Then kneel in front of a stone Buddha with luggage and kowtow constantly.
你是因为没出路而绝望，还是想死了之后重新做人呢？
我只知道活下去没有什么意义。
Leo Miao is a dung picker. Seeing that this guy isn't even afraid of death, why not have him pick his own dung? This job is not bad. As long as it prevents Xie Fing from killing people, he's willing to do anything. So Leo Miao gave Xie Fing half a steamed bun as a gift. One needs to have a full stomach to work hard. Work hard and the steamed bread will taste better. When the steamed bread tastes good, life becomes meaningful. In this way, Xie Fing is about to become a happy dung picker. Although Leo Miao earns his living by picking dung, he is not afraid of hardship, fatigue, or dirt. Treat everyone around you with kindness. Leo Miao's mother praised her son when she saw him bring Xie Fing back home.
你看，在家长得真气，在家长得真丑。
The Leo Miao family is very hospitable, sharing all the delicious food with Xie Fing. Before going to bed, Leo Miao's mother even brought over water to wash Xie Fing's feet. Xie Fing learned from Leo Miao's mother that they have another daughter, who works as a servant in a wealthy household, and can only come back home once a month. Although she is not a wealthy young lady, the whole family is proud of her. Leo Miao is an open-minded person who never belittles himself. Although scavenging may seem unglamorous, it has its own rules and jargon. Feces are called yellow medicine, and sewage is called golden juice. The unpleasant smell is called osmanthus fragrance. To avoid annoying others, scavengers also use unique, shouting techniques while walking.
中华木西乡金枝两桶。
Xie Ziyafeng seemed to gradually adapt to the scavenging job, but a big incident happened at the brothel. One day, a very difficult customer came and many prostitutes complained that they couldn't handle him. Since he was difficult, the pay was increased to 100 taels of silver. Xiali, in need of money, reluctantly agreed to take the job. But the customer was obviously a pervert, and by the end of the night, Xiali was badly injured and barely recognizable. She rushed back home with all her injuries. It turned out that Xiali was Leomio's younger sister, and the so-called servant job at the wealthy household was just a beautiful lie. Seeing Xiala's scars all over her back, Xie Ziyafeng's heart was touched. During breakfast, he pretended to meet Xiali for the first time, but he felt very uncomfortable inside.
你挨打了？
你没觉得我下贱吧？
没有。
With Xie Ziyafeng by her side, Xiali decided not to go back to the brothel. She knew that no matter what happened, Xie Ziyafeng would protect her. So far, she had secretly saved more than 100 taels of silver and also had a pile of gold beads, enough for their future livelihood. She wanted to buy a piece of land so that the family could farm for a living, and no longer have to go to the brothel or pick up manure. Perhaps touched by Xiali, Xie Ziyafeng took out the few copper coins he had on him and handed them over, saying that he would give all his future earnings to Xiali. These simple words were also a kind of confession. Xiala's departure made the big boss very unhappy. Losing an excellent employee would inevitably cause the company to suffer huge losses. However, with Xie Ziyafeng guarding her, the big boss decided to send a top assassin named Nameless. This Nameless had been around for more than a year, costing the big boss thousands of taels of silver. The mission was simple, to see what kind of background Xie Ziyafeng had. If he was useful, then keep him, if not, then kill him. Although Xiala's debt had been paid off, the people from the brothel still forcibly tried to take her away, and even Leomiao was beaten. It was at this moment that Xie Ziyafeng stepped forward. Seeing Xie Ziyafeng finally showing himself, Nameless drew his sword. What shocked him even more was that top assassin Yanchisen appeared behind him. In this situation, the assassin was so scared that he couldn't even speak, and fled in panic. The group of thugs was scared away, and the people cheered and thanked Yanchisen. Upon learning that Yanchisen lived in the Baoa forest, the villagers came with gifts to express their gratitude. They also asked Yanchisen to teach Xie Ziyafeng martial arts, and presented him with the only sword in the village. Unaware that the person in front of him was Xie Ziyafeng, Yanchisen handed him the sword and asked him to attack so that he could teach him swordsmanship. However, Xie Ziyafeng threw the sword away, and proved to be useless in Yanchisen's eyes. Yanchisen decided to give up teaching as he did not want to waste his time. Surprisingly, this decision caused dissatisfaction among the villagers.
你行走江湖不是要为民除害吗？你这样算哪门子侠客？
As a result, the hero who had just saved everyone became a selfish person, who only knew how to use martial arts for personal gain. Yanchisen had no words for those who only used moral coercion to manipulate others. As his death was approaching, he did not want to waste his time with these people. However, perhaps he was really being morally coerced. At night, after drinking enough alcohol, Yanchisen went to the brothel at the foot of the mountain, and started beating people up to force the boss to reveal his whereabouts. Yanchisen's sword was incredibly swift, and he always aimed to kill when he attacked. The lackeys were unable to withstand even half a move, and were all defeated in a moment. Seeing that his subordinates were so useless, the big boss quickly revealed his identity.
我是天尊分舵的舵主，你要杀了我，就是与天尊为敌。
天尊的走狗更该死。
To Yanchisen, killing this big boss is like killing a chicken. With just one sword, he can eliminate the scourge of the town of Kuhai. Seeing everyone celebrating with fireworks, Yanchisen decides to do more good deeds for everyone in his remaining years. Adults are afraid of the patterns on his face and dare not approach him, but children are not afraid and even imitate his makeup. At this moment, Yanchisen does not yet know that the person in front of him is Xie Ziyafeng from the Shenjian villa, who wants to take him as a disciple, and pass on all his sword skills. Yanchisen himself understands that he does not have much time left. If he really dies, his self-created 13 sword techniques will be lost. As a proud swordsman, he does not want this to happen. In fact, he can see that Xie Ziyafeng has martial arts skills, so he wants to know whether Xie Ziyafeng is reluctant to kill or afraid of death. In fact, both of these are common human nature, but if you want to practice swordsmanship, you should have a clear mind. Yanchisen is a martial arts prodigy. He started practicing swordsmanship at the age of 10, understood the way of the sword at the age of 13, and read all the sword techniques in the world at the age of 20. Since then, he has roamed the rivers and lakes and has never encountered an opponent again. In front of Xie Ziyafeng, he displayed all his self-created sword techniques, and just one sword could split a 100-year-old tree. This kind of terrifying sword technique is rare in the world. However, the deadly 13 swords do not have fixed moves, and can only be understood intuitively. The so-called taking its spirit, and forgetting its form is like this. He knows that the third young master of the Xinjiang villa split the Xie family's sword technique into two, from 72 sword techniques to 144 sword techniques, which can be held in both hands. Yanchisen spent his whole life wanting to defeat the third young master. Therefore, his sword technique cannot be fierce, and must be light and agile. Fighting against the third young master is Yanchisen's obsession. He even imagines a phantom to fight against him. After performing a set of sword techniques, it is a moment of joy to sit by the fire and drink. What Yanchisen cares about is that no matter how hard he tries, everything he does is always inferior to the third young master. People who mix in the rivers and lakes always want to gain some fame, so Yanchisen is willing to fight the Xinjiang villa at all costs. If he wins, he can become famous, and even if he loses, he will not regret dying under the third young master's sword.
可惜那个小王八蛋却死了。
我替你不值。
Yanchisen didn't care about all that. He just hoped that after he died, people would understand that he was Yanchisen, not the third young master of the Xie family. However, things in the martial arts world were never determined by one person alone. That night, a group of unexpected guests dressed in white robes arrived at the Miao family's residence. After Murongkuti paid his respects upon entering, he revealed his identity and also informed them that Xie Ziyafeng was the third young master of the Xie family's God Sword Villa. When everyone learned that AG, who had been with him day and night, was actually the third young master of the God Sword Villa, they were all stunned.
你要带他走，是的。如果他不愿意呢，那你就得逼他。
Xie Ziyafeng, worried about implicating others, had to leave here with a heavy heart. His subordinates immediately brought a plate of gold, silver, and jewelry as a token of gratitude, but Zayala's heart was already filled with endless bitterness.
哎，你躺在这干嘛？
等死，别烦我。
你还不能死，三少爷还没死呢。
After learning that AG, who had spent so many days with him, was actually Xie Ziyafeng, Yanchisen was overjoyed and pulled out his sword to challenge him to a duel. However, he eventually decided to give up, realizing that he had already passed on all 13 of his deadly swords, and probably couldn't defeat Xie Ziyafeng in this lifetime. As many people in this world suffer, Xie Ziyafeng was no exception. He and Murongkuti were childhood sweethearts, and their families were well matched. But the old master of the Sword Villa realized that the supposed love match was just a calculated move by the Morong family to win over the martial arts community. Nevertheless, he had to agree to the marriage, or else the Morong family would join forces with others to attack the Sword Villa, causing great trouble. Xie Ziyafeng overheard this conversation while hiding in the shadows, so he chose to disappear on the day of the wedding. However, this action triggered an even bigger crisis.
你纵容儿子糟践我女儿，从今而后，七星堂和神剑山庄一刀两断。
Actually, at this time, Murongkuti was already pregnant. However, the patriarch of the Morong family was so angry about Xie Ziyafeng's disappearance that he was literally worked to death. After some time passed, when Murongkuti finally decided to get married, Xie Ziyafeng reappeared and took her away. It seemed like he was trying to prove that Murongkuti could only belong to him. However, Xie Ziyafeng's wish was to retire from the martial arts world and live a peaceful life, which was contrary to Murongkuti's ambition. So, not long after, Xie Ziyafeng left again. Their story dragged on until now. When they met again, Xie Ziyafeng wanted to make it up to Murongkuti. The two heirs of the most influential martial arts factions lived a mundane life together, but the martial arts world is not something you can simply leave behind. While Xie Ziyafeng was out gathering firewood, he accidentally discovered that there were many new servants around.
这些仆人对我太忠诚了，听说我要跟你归隐田园，就一个二个都跑来了。
Xie Ziyafeng's desire is a true secluded life in the countryside. When he was still at the God Sword Villa, the old master wanted the God Sword Villa to be the only dominant force, and took him to hunt down martial artists everywhere. One of the swordsmen had already retired from the martial arts world, and lived a peaceful life as a farmer. However, the old master insisted that Xie Ziyafeng kill this person.
他是你唯一的对手，你把他杀了，为父就安心了。
人家已经退出江湖了，咱们走吧。
Forced by the farmer's owner, Xie Ziyafeng killed the man with his sword. The swordsman's family, also killed by the people of Excalibur Hill. According to Murongkuti, this is not unusual. Their power was fought over by their ancestors, and Excalibur Villa at 7-Star Pond marriage, but also to make bigger and stronger. But Xie Ziyafeng didn't want to see it, a man who stood aloof from worldly affairs, but because of the conflict between rivers and lakes, innocent and tragic death. Although Xie Ziyafeng is the leader in sword fighting, but I don't want anyone else to die by my sword. He wants Murongkuti to keep his feet on the ground and live a more realistic life. But Murongkuti only hates having muddy feet.
你随我一不开心，我随你也不快乐。你为什么那么自私，非要我依你？
Ju Yeking, a licking dog, washes Murongkuti's feet thoughtfully. He has done many things by Murongkuti's side over the years. Since Murongkuti wants to force Xie Ziyafeng to leave, naturally he will do so. So the Miao family hut was raided that night, and since the big boss was killed, Tianzin and his group also killed in the night. The little village was full of fire and blood. Xie Ziyafeng decided to keep the villagers alive by drawing the pursuers away on his own. But he was almost hurt by Zhu Yeking. Yan Shisun rushed out to save Xie Ziyafeng. Xie Ziyafeng, despite leaving, Xiali suddenly realized that Jinsu was still at home. When she found Jinsu and went out again, Morong Kuti had taken people to kill.
是用你身体换的臭钱吧？我挣的钱是养家的，比你们的高尚多了。
In Morong Kuta's opinion, Xiali seduced Xie Ziyafeng because he was greedy for money, but she didn't know one man, Xie Xiali, was willing to take the knife for her baby. In fact, the relationship is very simple. Morong Kuti loves is Xie Ziyafeng. The identity of Three Master of Shenjian Mountain. What Xiali loved was just such an ordinary person, who could not even do martial arts. Morong Kuti is a paranoid man with boundless ambition. Xie Ziyafeng has offended Xiali by being nice to her, so Liaomiao's mother and Liaomiao were killed. Villagers are also forced into the water by Tianzin. Only Xie Ziyafeng escaped the axe by Yan Shisun. When I returned to the village the next day, it was in ruins. I saw Xiali burned until he couldn't tell what he was. Xie Ziyafeng was completely angry, but things have changed in this world. Morong Kuti is about to attack Excalibur Heights. Her dream of domination is about to come true. Yan Shisun thinks Xie Ziyafeng shouldn't be so decadent, do something even if it's for the family, but Xie Ziyafeng lost his self from the age of 10, for the Xie family for Excalibur Heights. He followed his father in destroying other people's families. The heart of the sword already stained with blood, with all his sins. He did not want to kill again.
勿需杀人，只要把对方打败就行了，懂吗，傻瓜？
一语道破，大道坦然。燕大侠说得好。
Upon hearing of the attack, the students of Excalibur Villa were out in force. The old farmer led the way into the enemy, but these enemies do not speak of martial virtue. Weapons are all poisoned, in addition to the constant release of weapons to hurt people, and even send dead people to poison. Excalibur Heights is too strong to resist, had to retreat to the lobby, but these men were meant to destroy Excalibur Heights. It is only a moment too late to die. Hordes of horses came from all directions. It's meant to wipe out Excalibur Hill. These years, the old farmer eradicated dissenters in the name of justice and wanted to dominate rivers and lakes. It's already caused a lot of resentment.
你谢氏一族的面目比我们的面具还假。
谢庄主，真遗憾。
Zhu Yeking was the leader of Tianzin, an evil group. The enemy is present. The Xie clan hides in the inner chamber, decided to trigger the organ suicide in order to avoid the enemy abuse. But Yan Shisun dropped from the sky, bringing 1/3 young master, Xie Ziyafeng, with him.
不可以，杀了他，杀了他！
It's not that easy to kill Xie Ziyafeng. The 3 young masters of Excalibur Villa are more than these rotten fish and shrimp can handle. Even Zhu Yeking, a licking dog, is no match. Xie Ziyafeng showed his strength by taking the sword thrown by his clansmen. Even though he didn't want to kill anyone, but it doesn't hurt to cut someone when it counts. So, these people were picked out of the hamstring and hamstring, leaving a dog alive. Zhu Yeking was angry when he saw his men defeated, but dog licking is no match for the main character. Even Morong Kuti himself couldn't hurt Xie Ziyafeng. Hatred will only make her fierce. Anger will only lose her eyes. Killing the red-eyed Morong Kuti doesn't care so much. He even stabbed Zhu Yeking with his last sword.
我已经是天尊了，你愿意嫁给我吗？
配不上。
On seeing Morong Kuti badly injured, Xie Ziyafeng thought of going for a hug. I didn't expect Morong Kuti to have a murderous heart. Had it not been for Xie Ziyafeng's quick response, the 3rd master of Excalibur Villa will be killed on the spot. In fact, 2 people are not the same at all. It was a foregone conclusion.
不早了，我请你喝了最好的酒，你也穿得像个剑客，该还我人情了。
Yan Shisun still wants to fight it out with Xie Ziyafeng, but Xie Ziyafeng has learned to take one's life by 3 swords. I mean, it's all the simplest of tricks, but there's only one flaw in it, Yan Shisun's death taking 13 swords to win. There's only a chance if Xie Ziyafeng's 7th move goes wrong. Both were the greatest swordsmen of their time. Yan Shisun's sword has a touch of reckless murderousness. He thought the most humiliating way for a swordsman to die is to die on a bed of illness, can die under the opponent's sword, is the greatest respect for a swordsman. Xie Ziyafeng is not the same idea, once brothers, now rivals. Well, in that case, show off your skills. 2 swords too fast to see shadows. At the top of the mountain, Yan Shisun's swordsmanship was weak after all. His reflexes grew slower, and slower until his sword was plucked from his hand. Trying to seize the day Xie Ziyafeng wouldn't give him the chance, the sword thrust into the chest. Yan Shisun finally fell under the flowering tree.
这是他自掘的坟，可以说是死得其所。我用我的剑和你换。
Later, Xie Ziyafeng left the Forest of Flowers, go to chivalrous justice, rectify the martial arts. He may kill, but in this forest of swords and swords, it's hard to tell the difference between killing and saving. Rivers and lakes are rivers and lakes, and hatred is kindness. Dust such as tide, people such as water. Only Sai Lake several people back.